Welcome to another edition of Tech Fireside Chats with your host, Joel Martin. Take it away, Joel.
Hey, Josh.
Joel.
Nice to see you, buddy. You look good. I like the beard. It's growing.
Thank you very much. COVID-19 beard, and then I'm also putting the COVID-19 19 pounds on.
Oh, well, me too. That's funny. Well, cheers. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, cheers.
What do you got there? Oh, I like that. What's a bear? Is that a California bear?
Yeah, we went to a Black Bear Diner, excuse me, over the weekend. So it was brilliant, great portions. And after camping for so long, you just want to stuff your face. So
nice. And dogs?
Yeah. Wife and dogs. I've got two dogs. I've got a pit bull and a Yorkie poodle, and the Yorkie poodle runs the household. So, just small dog things.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. So for those of you joining us, I have Josh, the CEO or one of the founders of Monday Motorbikes, right?
Yep.
Nice. And we met, and it seems like a lifetime ago, we met at CES, which is the Consumer Expo, Electronics Expo in Vegas, 2015?
Yeah.
2015. You guys brought the first, one of the first Monday Motorbikes. You'd just been on TV, you'd been CNN, and I just randomly ran into you. And I'm like, what's this? I've seen this before. It's an electric moped. And we started chatting. And man, you've been all over the place since then. So maybe we start there. We met at CES. You just launched. Tell me your story. You started on the Monday in San Francisco in a garage, and let's go with the roller coaster.
So we were founded out of a garage on 20th and Anza on a Monday in San Francisco, and that's why we came up with the name Monday Motorbikes.
Like that.
Then, our original thoughts were always around creating something that's fun and aesthetically pleasing for people, as well as really good for the environment. And so it took a lot of iterations. When we met, we were on our 5th generation bike, and up to our 3rd generation bike, it was a Franken bike. Everything we were testing, all these different motors, batteries, everything. And so when we launched our 5th generation bike, all of a sudden everyone was just like, what is this thing? Is it a motorcycle? And we're like, no, because it falls under federal guidelines for electric bicycles. So you don't need a license. You don't need a registration. You can do all the things that you want to do on a moped or motorcycle, and some of the things you could do on a bicycle, and just mix those things and remove all the drawbacks. And that was the original vision when we launched in 2015.
I remember that discussion. We were talking, you guys were launching with a direct to consumer before it was popular to do direct to consumer, right around like Tesla is doing. No dealers, let's just sell to the public, right? I mean, things have changed along the way, I imagine, right?
Yeah. And when we first launched, we launched on Indiegogo, and there was a lot of people who were fans, but they all said, there's no way a $6,000 bike, it was $6,000 then, now it's $4,500. But back then they said, there's no way someone's going to buy a $6,000 sight unseen electric motorbike. It's not going to be able to be done. And we raised over $250,000 on that, and we broke 3 crowdfunding records at the same time. An example for those was like the highest price item ever fully funded in crowdfunding history and the highest per capita raise in crowdfunding history. And so we really paved the way for a lot of these other organizations to figure out, hey, we can go direct to consumer online. We'll start off through Indiegogo and really move it through the market at that point in time. And so it was really fun. Also just kind of scary because you weren't really sure how the market was going to react to something at that price point, let alone the power output and use case. It was just a completely new market back in 2015.
Yeah, I mean, you're cutting edge, right? Like this EV moped retro looking bike that's, highly connected, has all these cool features, best in class, right? And I think you had the retro styling, but the modern technology, which I thought was really, really cool. But yeah, I know all about launching the best. I think I was there with Brightbox at the time. We were at the AOL booth, not too far from where you were at, because there was the Outside Expo. I think Gen Z was there. They were launching. A whole bunch of different things were happening in the space. And I'm selling the $5,000 phone charging system, best in class, most expensive charger in the world. And, we're competing with like $10 cables. I totally understood where you were at. I remember the conversation now. But let's fast forward. You guys just launched a new bike this week, right?
Yeah. So ever since the COVID issues have occurred, we were like wanting to launch this bike right at the premium buying or the prime buying season, excuse me, which is typically summer.
Mm-hmm.
But all so it's completely disrupted. And so we just launched our newest product, which is called Anza, which is an homage to one of the streets that our garage was on in the early days, where we did a lot of our original testing of the Gen 1 through 4 bikes. And we just said, hey, you know what? We're going to make this new product, and we're going to have it with the similar cafe racer design inspired by the motorcycles and mopeds of the 60s and 70s. And at the same time, we're going to get it at a price point that is about $1,500, which is a third of the price of the Gen 7. So we still have that really cool electric cafe racer design, but at a price point that is palatable for the general market, including guys in college. I would have loved to have one of these. So we just launched that on Monday, last Monday, and it's been flying off the. We were really excited. Very similar to the early days on Indiegogo. We weren't sure how the market was going to react because we were making a $4,500 premium product with high power output. Really crazy.
Kilowatts.
So we're doing a 500 watt and a 750 watt versus the Gen 7 has 5,000 watts of power. Okay. But given the fact that it's approximately 50 pounds, 53 pounds, putting that much power in it doesn't make sense. And at the end of the day, the goal was to have it be able to be financed for less than $80 a month, which is about my cell phone bill. So
that's great.
The goal was to have
deliveries or people putting food in their backpacks and doing deliveries now. That's extremely affordable, and something that Swift Mile over here we love talking about, because I mean I think that's the future. Micromobility, e-bikes, e-mopeds, e-scooters, and there's this whole ecosystem around it where small displacement vehicles, and my background with Malaguti and trying to do that a generation ago, I completely believe in it. I think just that America's always been this big car country that's never seen small vehicles as a way to get around, unless you were in Key West or San Francisco. But now, even though gas prices are really low, people are actually embracing micromobility. I see e-bike sales are through the roof, bicycle sales are through the roof. People are buying their own e-bikes, they're buying their own mopeds. I think you've been sold out. I remember something.
Almost always. I mean, every time we have just snatched up. I want to echo what you're saying. We're noticing that as well. One thing that we've really began to understand was, or we have understood, is that as time goes on, in the early days in 2015, everyone was like, electric bicycles, those are for old people. And all of a sudden you have these really cool, unique designs that really speak to the younger generation. You start getting price points that speak to the younger generation. Yeah. And they look at the types of products as auxiliary to their existing transportation needs, whether it's bus, train, airplane, car, you name it. For a large portion, it's auxiliary. And then for another portion, about 20 to 30% of the market, it's their primary. And so they do want something that's of premium build quality and has a really nice quality of life in terms of its battery life cycle or its maintenance and things like that. And so we're starting to see that shift. It's something we believed was going to happen back in 2015 and 2016. But we really have to thank the Limes.
I've been waiting for the revolution for years, man. I remember it's going to happen. Then 9/11 happened, and then gas prices went up in 2003, 2004, and I kept thinking it's going to happen. But I actually think COVID was the final thing that would bring America to embrace So I was like, it can't get crazier than this, right? But let's talk about the technology. This is a technology podcast. Tell me about some of the tech behind, or maybe we can show a video. You have a video here we can share.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about the tech behind it, right? Maybe you want to, can you hit play there?
So here we have our Monday Motorbikes Gen 7. We'll see if I can get the video to buffer here. And let me know if this is buffering too long or if it's okay. Is it still smooth?
It's smooth. I see it.
Perfect. Okay, so the Gen 7, as the name suggests, is the 7th generation bike we've made. And really the goal for us is to create something that still has that old school design with the new school of tech. And so there's 3 primary things that we've enhanced on our bike to make it unique in the market besides its aesthetic. And so one of those things was our RFID sensors. So we have a fob-based system to turn on and turn off your bike. There's no keys. And ultimately what ends up happening is when you're ready to turn your bike on, all you have to do is go up to the bike, tap your fob, bike is on, you're ready to ride. You want to walk away, just press the button on the bike, it shuts off. And the fob really has assisted us in theft reduction. We're motorcycle riders, so we found that was a really important way to go about it. And then the second thing was really around the battery technology. So Monday Motorbikes in the early days, we used 8 lithium-ion drill batteries to have our bike go from point A to point B. It didn't go very far, it didn't go very fast, but it proved the concept that we could make something that has the capacity, whether it's range or top speed.
Maybe we can show the website so we can show some of the specs. I think you have those on your site. You can bring that up.
Will do. So as I'm pulling this up, I'll talk a little bit about that next piece, which is around the battery. So back in the day, we used to make our batteries by hand. And we built them from a cellular level. It was a pretty with cells from Henderson. So we found that was one of the interesting things, that most people are taking off-the-shelf batteries and off-the-shelf battery technology. And by learning the battery technology, by advancing that battery technology internally, we've been able to get ranges in excess of 100 miles per charge. So we're on the Monday Motorbikes page. Can you see that?
Sorry, I being that I had a collection of mopeds, I like the classic, just open frame. It looks like a mix of a bicycle and a moped. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, keep going.
No, you're right. And so about the battery, ultimately, we were able to create a battery from the ground up that has the capacity to reach in excess of 100 miles on a single charge. And you're finding existing companies today will talk about its top speed. They'll say, we'll go 80, we'll go 90 miles an hour. And you're like, okay, that's crazy. But also you're getting like a 10 to 15 mile an hour range. And so for a lot of people, that's something that, range anxiety is always real. It's always in your face. And so with Monday, we decided, hey, let's make something that's really unique in the fact that with our unique battery technology, you can actually ride for weeks without charging it. We have a lot of people that do that. So that's a secondary piece of technology that we thought was pretty darn interesting. And then the third is the mid-drive. So we use a mid-drive motor versus a lot of electric bicycle and electric motorbike companies or do the rear hub. So that's a motor that sits in the rear wheel versus the center of the frame. And so with that mid-drive, we're able to get better torque, better efficiency, as well as keep that cafe racer aesthetic still pretty true. And CG assistance as well, because the front end tends to lift up when you've got a lot of horsepower, or in this case, kilowatts, to that motor. And so we own the patent on the existing drivetrain, which has been pretty unique. And I think that's one of the other reasons why we're not seeing players try to advance the ball on the mid-drive side, because we kind of cornered that market in the early days by patenting that mid-drive system.
Let me ask you about the connectivity to the network. Is that something that so maybe you can talk a little bit about that technology?
Yeah. So from our side, we're working on, have always been working on the connectivity side. Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Thought that was going to be. We've been working on the connectivity side of things. One of the barriers to entry for connectivity has to do with FCC requirements. We can take an off-the-shelf component and put it on our bike, but because it changes the nature of what that device is used for, we have to go through an FCC regulatory change and certification, which can range from $20,000 all the way up to $250,000 depending on use. One of the things with the Gen 7 is that it's a high-priced, limited availability product. And so, you do 1,000 of those in a year, and that's good numbers for what you're making, but ultimately, in terms of making connectivity a part of your suite of services, you need to have more output, more along the lines of like 10,000 to 20,000 units. And so what we're excited about is the release of Anza, a secondary product in Gateway. So we have two other products I'll show you on the screen here. In Anza, which is right here, this is the one we spoke about. And then we have another one called Gateway, which is a step-through design. And those units are at a price point ranging from $1,500 all the way to $3,500. And that's going to get us over that hump to get to that 10, 20,000 unit a year number, so that we have viability with connectivity, where we can have a suite of services, an all-in-one solution that connects things or connects the components of the bike through CAN bus communication to the cloud. And we've done it. We've actually done it multiple times on our research and development boards. The question really becomes, hey, what's the long-term solution? When can we implement this? And when are we going to be ready to either pay the certification requirements or be able to pay the fines for if we get caught doing it?
Have you looked at other smaller, like there's the AWS, like the radio signals, or do you need real-time data? I mean, have you looked at other or maybe connecting to your cell phone? Have you thought about that? Yeah,
Bluetooth connectivity to your cell phone and having your cell phone be that conduit between the bike and the cloud has been something we've been looking into and have created.
I do part for consulting, so I'll send you the bill.
Yeah, thanks. It'd be great. You should send me the bill so we can look at it. What?
Well, so what's the range right now on the newest model, on the Anza?
So the Anza is sitting at about 20 to 30 miles of range at the 750 watt.
So let's say we put a charging station at work. There's no need to battery swap or anything. You just doubled the range.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. You know, these puppies are these puppies are at the Tesla and a couple other high, pretty big corporate offices. We should talk after this podcast.
Yeah. I mean, we like that idea. At the end of the day, whether it's the Anza or the Gen 7, we like to try and bring it down to bite-size points so that the consumer can understand it. So back in the day with the Gen 7, we would say it gets 100 miles in range. And people would then say, well, how long does it take to charge the bike? And we'd say, it's about a 5-hour charge time from empty to full.
Yeah.
And the consumer would go, oh, man, 5 hours, that's a lot of time. But then when you take it in this bite-sized chunk and you say, hey, if you charge it for an hour, you get 20 miles in range. All of a sudden, it completely shifts the paradigm. That person says, okay, well, 20 miles in range for 1 hour. I probably only need to go 3 or 4 miles, right? And no one's doing cross-country trips on these things, let alone cross-city trips. And so that's how we like to explain it. I think with a Swift Mile-like solution, getting something like that with the Anza, it's like, hey, an hour of charge will get you between 5 and 8 miles within an hour, or even give you the capability to hot swap your batteries is something that we really liked.
I think the infrastructure, and not just SwiftMile, but the infrastructure in general for e-bikes and micromobility, the optics of battery swapping sound really good. And I've seen this in Germany and other countries. But you can't have 50 battery systems having kiosks in different locations. So the reality is universal charging with cables or without cables is probably going to be the way of the future to extend the range of micromobility vehicles, mopeds and scooters and bikes, sort of like the cars, right? And then there's going to be the superchargers and the regular chargers. At some point, you have to make regular charging free, but the superchargers might cost a little extra, right? I mean, to the consumer. And I guess I could talk about this for half an hour, but the podcast is about you. So, but I will make some intros to some of the code firm and some of the partners after this, because I have some great ideas for you guys. And of course, we definitely got to continue because you're in California, Swift Miles in California. There's a play here because we really want to help the environment as well. And I love your mission statement. And I think I made a mistake. I called you CEO. You're CMO now, right? You switched roles. Yeah. So apologies for that. But I knew you when you were just the founder guy. And so I'm really excited.
CEO, Joel, but I'll tell you what, the stress level for now as the chief marketing officer has been great. And, one of the biggest challenges we had after we made the switch was COVID was just starting up. This is February of this year. and now taking on the new role to head up the marketing, which as CEO, I was doing all the things, including marketing, but now I'm got that focus. And in February and March, we saw a dip. We saw a dip in website visits. We saw a dip in website conversion. And the board sat down and we all had a hard look at each other and said, hey, we've got to get these numbers into, really good spaces, because right now, if we continue this downward trajectory, we're in deep trouble. And so in the new role, one of my favorite things that we did is we changed our online paid advertising strategy, and then changed the way we approach the funnel on online sales, which I love. I'm a data guy. I love looking at Google Analytics. That, for me, a date night is sitting down and me looking at Google Analytics with my date, right? Or with my wife in this case. And so what we did is we changed the model. We changed the way we advertise. We changed the specials. We changed the way that people travel through the funnel and find the product that is right for them. And between that March period and June, we saw an uptick in sales and new users by about 300%. And that's continued to grow through September now at a rate of about 50 to 60% growth month over month. So we're really excited about it. I couldn't be happier with the role, but more importantly, I'm really happy about how we were able to kind of overcome the issues with COVID, like working as an example.
We haven't interviewed these guys, but I know so many stories where companies retreated, they freaked out, they let all their salespeople go. And COVID has been like a once in a lifetime or second in a lifetime lesson. If companies that survived 9/11 or went through that in business, I think that's the only thing I can compare it to from a personal level. And I've had people who, let's let go of the whole marketing team, or let's stop all advertising. And those are huge mistakes, because your story, which I've heard a couple times now, are people that changed things around, kept advertising, kept their sales team, and their sales are up, or they're selling out of product. They're actually having a fantastic year. Now, that's not for everybody. Obviously, there's some things that are beyond the control of marketing or ad spend. But I think this was the right approach, man. You guys did the right thing, because, micromobility is hot right now. I'm talking to e-scooter companies that can't keep their e-scooters in stock, right? They're just selling out on Amazon. So there you go. But, and there's just the guys that just had that, like, let's freak out response. Let's get rid of all the employees. And this happened across verticals, different industries that, you're talking about the catering industry, restaurants, hotels, the hospitality, events, retail, like everybody had a different reaction. And I love hearing the not the freak out story, but the guy who, let's analyze the data. What does Google tell us? How do we switch, pivot to hybrid or different, or take the customer experience to a different virtual, and you guys are doing great. So congrats to that. I love your story. I love the fact that I met when you guys were just starting in Vegas. My next question, maybe we're running out of time, but real quick, is what's the future hold? I mean, you guys going into Europe? Are you expanding into other markets? I mean, because I can see a kid in Austria or in the Netherlands wanting to have an American styled moped, right?
Yeah. Well, you're hitting the nail on the head. It's hilarious because we didn't even talk about this, but we're going to be expanding into Europe.
This is a tech podcast. I'm always thinking about the future.
Yeah, that's fair. And well, but we're going to be moving to the European market. We're actually working on homologation for a couple of units now.
Okay.
And then shortly after that, Australia. The goal here is always, a lot of people are looking at the Chinese and Indian market. I think that if you hit those markets, which are great, if you make that type of product, it's kind of a race to the bottom. We think that the less price sensitivity in the European and Australian markets will really help us, specifically in Nordic countries. They love two wheels, and we love that they love two wheels. So we're going to be launching those products out there probably by the end of the year is when we're going to run the full announcement about timelines and what products and suites we'll be offering out there. But that's going to be what's in the future. Then we have 2 additional products that are still finalizing research and development. Because we were doing it in the garage in the early days, we can now kind of continue to drive that focus on the customer experience, use case, and things of that nature to drive really fun and innovative products, and not another one that's like, oh yeah, you guys do this pedal assist bicycle, and then someone else comes along and says, me too, right?
Yeah. Has to be about the customer experience, the ride itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Anza does a good job of staying true to our design features and functionality and design language. And we really do think that the new bikes we're going to launch by the end of the year are going to be really good as well.
Okay, good. Any last thoughts on life? Because I do expect to drive one of these soon, and this can't last forever. But what are you, besides growing a beard? What are you watching? What are you streaming? Tell me about Josh. What are you doing with your dog? And what is happening during COVID? What do you recommend our viewers?
I mean, there's a lot of time to go sit down and watch The Boys on Amazon.
Oh my God, season 2 is amazing. Yeah, I have the whole comic book run, the original.
Yeah.
So they're pretty adult. I would say that.
This is like the part that's not safe for work podcast, but as long as but I love
Garth Ennis, the writer. I mean, the original, the creator of The Boys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Punisher, and Preacher.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's I've tried to get into it, but not too crazy. But it's the other thing that's been really fun is with new product launch and things that I've been working on personally is just we get access to so many different musicians and movie stars and stuff like that want to connect. And
I used to have Gene Simmons calling me at the office asking for a free Malaguti. I'm not kidding. Swear. I mean, these are stories. Like I hung out with Hugh Hefner and like motorcycles and scooters just attract rock stars. We used to have American like rock stars just show up at the Malaguti factory in Bologna, and they'd be like, "Joel, this gentleman says he knows you. He wants a tour of the factory. What do we do?" I'm like, give him the tour.
Joel, come on by.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what happens. Like, whether it's Keanu Reeves or whoever, celebrity tends to like shiny things, and this is a cool shiny thing you got here, man.
Yeah, thank you. And it's all during COVID. It's just been phone calls and FaceTime videos, and just trying to stay connected with people, whether it's new or existing customers or fans or family or anything like that. I mean, it's crazy because we're more connected than ever, and
less connected than ever. I feel like weird when I'm around the crowd. I get scared.
Right. We'll do one of these high fives as we end the call, but it doesn't feel right. But it's one of those things that I think COVID is created a lot of really good opportunities for people to learn on how to connect on a personal level, even though you can't be in person. And so we've just really been training that, and then spending a lot of time with my wife. I've been married for a little over a year now.
Oh, congrats.
She stuck with me through the early days. So, a large portion of our marriage has been stuck in lockdown. So I couldn't ask for a better partner with the dogs.
Well, you know what? This is the test, man. This is it. All right. I mean, what better way to prove than the apocalypse?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, we're excited to drive some new stuff out there, Joel. And in the future, I'd love to hear any comments or questions from anybody listening to the podcast about what we have to offer. Any other outstanding questions that may be interesting for you guys to learn about our growth from a garage with one bike with 8 lithium-ion drill batteries to now industry-leading range on electric motorbike design and everywhere in between. We'd love to answer questions. We really want to bring the community together, and I can't thank you enough for doing that.
I love that. That's a great vision, and you have my endorsement. Been a fan since we met, and I'm still a fan, and I can't wait to try it out. And I'm definitely going to introduce you to a couple of my partners. Well, everybody, that's Josh, CMO of Monday. Let me put it one more time. Check out this website, mondaymotorbikes.com. Hit him up, ask him a question on Instagram or Facebook or on the website. You'll get an answer very, very quickly. And thank you so much, man. I mean, this has been great. Any final thoughts? We have like 1 minute.
Well, they say in the motorcycle realm, when in doubt, throttle out. So if you ever find yourself in a position where you're needing to figure out which direction to go, just go full steam ahead. And that's my key to conquering COVID on our side. So wish you guys the best of luck if anybody's dealing with it, and stay safe out there.
That's great advice. All right, high five.
Thanks for watching, and join us next week on Tech Fireside Chats.